It's a big conversation that is threatening to go under the radar. But let's have it, because just last week, the Supreme Court and Parliament were pitched against these two very important institutions in this democracy, were pitched against each other. And it played out on the floor of Parliament. And it all revolves around the license to grow cannabis. The Supreme Court has struck down an act passed by Parliament that gave that license and an authority to the Minister of the Interior to indeed license, individuals and organizations to grow cannabis for industrial purposes, also for obtaining fiber, seed, or for medicinal purposes. And that was very controversial indeed. And this is the section in particular that was controversial, which indeed the Supreme Court had raised questions about. What was the Supreme Court's point? And as far as this is concerned, it declared that this provision is unconstitutional as on the July 7, 2020. If you look at it, the President signed that into law sometime in May of 2020. Parliament did not act transparently in the passage of this act, where the Supreme Court upheld, and that it was a majority decision. The process was an issue for the Supreme Court. But just last week, the Interior Minister went back to Parliament and was very clear that the decision taken by the Supreme Court was wrong. The Speaker joined him in condemning the Supreme Court for what they had done. Watch what unfolded.
Mr. Speaker, permit me to state that I respect the decision of the Supreme Court, but I do not agree with it. And Mr. Speaker, the reason that has been given is that that session had not been debated before this House, when this House was passing the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2020 Act 1090.
I hope that the three arms of government will work together and respect each other. In cases of doubt, it's important to consult the other arm before giving finality to whatever decision the other arm wants to take. And I don't think that is proper for the judiciary to, without knowing how we conduct our business here, really go into how we conduct the business and make such important decisions without consulting the House. That is improper. I have made this known to them, and I want this to be known publicly. This is for the benefit of the country.
It's improper. That is the Speaker's position there. The Interior Minister himself also was outraged by what the Supreme Court had done. And so what was the Supreme Court's point as far as this is concerned? The Supreme Court was clear that as far as this law is concerned, and as you heard the minister in question talk about it, they believe that as far as the process in Parliament is concerned, due process wasn't followed, and so they struck it out. So what we have now, and on the back of what happened last week, the Interior Minister reintroduced this section 43, which is the subject of controversy, reintroduced this section back to Parliament, word for word, by the way, which in essence says that the Minister may grant a license for the cultivation of cannabis, which in terms of potency, not more than 0.3 THC, for industrial purposes, for obtaining fiber, seed, and for medicinal purposes, right? And that, in essence, is what this section particularly says. That now has been introduced, and there is unanimous support in Parliament for this, and so we expect that this will pass without controversy. Just reintroduce the wording exactly. okay, the point is, Supreme Court, you said we didn't follow procedure. Okay, we'll follow a procedure now and simply pass it back into law. So, barring any last-minute hitches, we expect this to come into force, and the president, we expect that we'll sign this back into law. But that is where we are with this controversy that played out last week. Well, Ghana isn't the only country on the continent that is on the path of legalizing the cultivation of cannabis, either for medicinal in this particular act that Parliament is about to pass. We don't see anything standing in his way to seek to the House. The Speaker himself is in favor of it. If you listen to the Speaker, it is more because of the economic benefits they see. Billions of dollars they mentioned that Ghana is losing out because the Supreme Court had thrown this law out. If you go to Lesotho, in 2017, they passed this. And again, the emphasis there is that this particular act, just like in Lesotho, explicitly forbids the growing of cannabis for recreational use. You see it in South Africa as well. Also in 2018, they also legalized the cultivation of cannabis for medicinal purposes and for other uses as well, other than recreational. You also see in Zimbabwe, similar story in 2018. In Zambia, the same story. In Malawi, also in 2020, just like Ghana. This was actually passed and assented to by the president until it was challenged at the Supreme Court and thrown out. So all of them for no medicinal purposes. And if you come to the African story, all these countries did so primarily because of the economic benefit they see in the cultivation of cannabis for that purposes, right? And for the purposes of medicine, for fiber, or for seed. And I'm quoting that because that is what is in the act or the bill now that is being considered by Parliament. But is that the only way to look at this? Because if you look at Ghana, and this tells you a story, we have had challenges with cannabis for a while. If you look at the Africa Cannabis Report, we've had a challenge in terms of illegal cannabis passing through this country. We become a transit hub for it. If you look at this in terms of the intersection of how many countries use Ghana as a transit point to traffic cannabis illegally to other countries. So you're coming from South Africa, it goes to Ghana. If you're coming from Bolivia, coming to Ghana, and then that then leaves Ghana to other areas in the Netherlands, the UK, etc. So Ghana is known to have become a transit point for cannabis, which is unauthorized. Now we want to grow it. And those who are opposed to this say, if you do this, how do you monitor? How do you ensure that this is not abused by people who really want to take advantage of the country, which even without this law, they are taking advantage of Ghana anyway to transit cannabis through it. I mean, so if you give this license in a country where we know that we struggle with implementation and enforcement and monitoring, then you're opening the floodgates for all these characters to then now take advantage and grow it locally and export it to other areas, when indeed it may be a violation of the law, because specifically the THC content has to be not more than 0.3, but also you only grow it for 3 specific purposes, for industrial purposes, but also for the 3 things I've mentioned. So that is the concern that those who are opposed to this have raised as well. We'll get into that pretty shortly, but there's a lot of money at stake here, which is, and I listened to the parliamentary debate, which really was a fundamental basis for this. The Africa Cannabis Report talks about 2023 projections worth 7.1 billion. So that's a lot of money there. And if you look at the breakdown, the projections for recreational cannabis is still the most lucrative one. But that is what with the law explicitly forbids, right? That is what is projected to bring in terms of its worth, some 6.3 billion. If you look at the medicinal cannabis, it's not bringing in as much compared to the recreational cannabis, some $800 million. So that is a fraction of what you get from recreational cannabis. And that's where the temptation is. People look at these numbers and say, if you give me the opportunity, you open this floodgates here, part of this then becomes here, because people will hide under the license and then grow for recreational purposes, because that is where the money is. Money is the big factor in why illicit drugs thrive in a lot of the parts of the world where it's become an issue. So that is a fear for many, because if you look at the numbers there'll be a shift towards recreational use for this. How do you control this if you pass this act? Again, if you look at the countries on the continent, really, who are already big players in this, both recreational and medicinal. If you go to Nigeria, talking about 3.74 billion. So that market in Nigeria is huge, right? If you come to South Africa, 1.7 billion, both recreational and for medicinal use. Morocco, 600 million. You come to Lesotho, 90 million. And if you come to a country like Zimbabwe, just $80 million. There is money involved. And we have Nigeria, a big player in there, very close to us. They have not yet, and I haven't read that yet. And they haven't done what we're doing now. So if you grow it here, people may look to the Nigerian market because it's significant there, more than 3 billion. And if you look at the forecast going forward, this is the forecast. And the forecast tells recreational, this is for Ghana, by the way, and according to the Africa Cannabis Report, that the Ghanaian market, in terms of recreational cannabis, is worth some $326 million. If you look at for medicinal purposes, it's just tiny. That's some 380,000. And I believe this is grossly understated, by the way, but that's what the report tells us. And I'm pretty sure there's a bit more research that we need to do to understand this a bit more before this law is passed, with all the questions that are raised. If you look at the country profile of Ghana, and this is another interesting data that I found, we are 30.8 million. Alcohol consumption alone is 3.7 liters per capita. But then look at the cannabis users. We have 3.8 million cannabis users in this country. And most of them are doing that because of the law currently, illegally, right? And that's why there's this push now to do it in a way that you can regulate. But the Narcotics Control Commission Act also provides for the rehabilitation of people who are affected by, the abuse of cannabis. So people say the law in itself is a good act, is a good law, except for this section 43, which is controversial. And the average cost of cannabis is 80 cents per gram. So it's pretty affordable for people to grab and just smoke as far as that is concerned. So let's sit down and have a conversation there, because it's a very important conversation to have, considering that the Interior Minister and the Speaker are in agreement that this decision by the Supreme Court is a travesty of justice, they believe, and has shortchanged Ghana quite significantly. My guest will join me for a conversation on this very important matter if you stay with me after the break.
Daddy, this tank is big!
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow! It has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see S-I-N-T-E-X. Syntax!
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntax was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntax again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntax gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntax is the answer. Syntax tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
Own your luxury. What if you could enjoy ultra luxury in the environs of Sakumono? What if you could have a share of affluence all to yourself? Step into our 5-bedroom executive Ohima suite, or our 4-bedroom Oyster Asantewa space, or our 4-bedroom plush Kukwa unit, and discover a whole world of possibilities. It's not just a building, it's a promise of a dream come true. Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. Reach us on 0553 662 366 or 0544 299 4.
EcoBank salary account. With the EcoBank salary account, you will enjoy free life insurance, free debit card, save while you spend, and an amazing chance to double your salary. And even more consolation rewards in the EcoBank double salary promo reloaded.
Guy, this EcoBank salary account sounds interesting. What do you think?
Yara, but maybe next time, Charlie, you know what? I'll go shine my shoe.
Hey,
Yo, myself, I go check my BP.
We going up, never go down, and we stay fly.
Chairman, you see the white sign it here.
Open
an EcoBank salary account today for a lifetime of benefits. You also stand a chance to win more than double your salary in the EcoBank Double Salary Promo Reloaded from now till July 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
and a top life regardless.
Promo is under the supervision of the National Lotteries Authority under the Caritas Lottery Platform.
The Pan-African.
Crazy pa. Nansa ben on me.
Whiskey.
Wash. All of a sudden, my voice I hear different. And when you saw a call. Barman, bring me the honey whiskey. You know the one? Black Rock whiskey.
Honey whiskey.
Shale, honey near their fro. Black Rock whiskey is strong. Now so taste me is smooth and it goes down easy. Excuse me. Barman, bring my friend one Black Rock whiskey.
Black Rock whiskey, blended with natural honey flavor.
Hey, what's up?
Barman.
Hey, what the over Sikanton Sada? You've been to a man, no?
Black Rock whiskey can be a feeling smoothness, no?
Drink responsibly. Not for sale to persons under 18 years of age and not recommended for pregnant women. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see SINTEX. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntex was the first to introduce double layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Thanks for staying with us. And as you know, PM Express is always brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were doing it for ourselves and going to occupy ourselves. Syntex tanks, it is strong, It is tough. Alomo Bitters experience greatness in every moment, and then Ghana AIDS Commission as well. And as I've been talking about, Cherry Tree Properties, desires are wishes, beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. Thinking about buying a new home, talk to those who build with passion. Sloane Square, a new gated community development at Sakumono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you've never experienced. Contact us on 0553 662 366, 0553 662 366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. And then also, if you want to store water, you need to call them. They are Syntex Tank. No matter your water needs, Syntex Tanks has it all. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce to you the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex Tanks. We have agents nationwide. You can call us on 0244 335 168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tanks are strong, are tough. And this is a two-part show tonight. From 10, we'll be talking about this conversation. Occupy Finance Ministry. The bondholders are uniting to hit the streets tomorrow. But really, why? We thought this matter had been resolved. Apparently not. So we'll speak to Senor Hossi and Dr. Joel Jangba, two of the conveners of the two, coming together, the two associations coming together to picket at the Finance Ministry. You want to stay with us for that here on PMXS. But now, though, I have with me, joining me for a conversation, Nana Jiman, who is the president of the Hemp Association of Ghana. Also joining me is Peter Badimak Yaro. Peter, thanks for joining us here on PM Express. He is executive director of Basic Needs Ghana, and they invest a lot in rehabilitation of the people, etc., who get affected by such drugs. Sheikh Arimayal Shaibu is a spokesperson for the National Chief Imam and the Vice Chairman and Board of Trustees, Friends of Mental Health. Sheikh, thank you very much. But I want to start with Kwame Nyimeduenchi. He is the chairperson of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. This particular act that was passed and then, struck out by Supreme Court is back in Parliament and is with his committee. Mr. Nyimeduenchi, thanks for your time here on PM Express. From what we heard from the Interior Minister last week, this Section 43 is being reintroduced. What does that mean in terms of Parliament considering and passing it now? Because it was passed and signed by the President already. Hello, Mr. Nyimeduenchi. Oh, we may have lost him on the line there. We'll try and get him back for his thoughts on this. Peter, let me start with you. I mean, whilst we wait for the Member of Parliament and the Chair to come and explain to us the legal processes towards passing, I'm pretty sure you were here when this particular act was passed and assented to. And when the Supreme Court struck it down, I wonder what your reaction was then. Did you foresee that it may come back?
Yeah, I foresaw that it would come back for the obvious reasons that the debate between prohibition and regulation has always raged on. And depending on who is driving it, you would see if those for regulation are in the majority or are in the driving seat, they would always want to project that. And I think that is what played between the Supreme Court and Parliament.
Okay, so yes. So Parliament, obviously the MPs were in strong support of this.
Yes.
And they passed it. But the Supreme Court thought, well, procedurally there was an issue with it. But what's your stance on it, though? Now that it's been brought back, from everything that we're reading, this will be passed because, again, Parliament is in strong support of it.
Our stance have always been on the side of people who, for whatever reason,
become dependent or needing support for using drugs. That is basically our point of view. If their rights can be respected, they can be given the needed support, so be it. But what we have seen in Ghana is that you would have laws that do not put in place safeguards for people like people who would be using drugs. If you now more or less open the floodgates, say, all right, it's okay to use it for medicinal purposes, and we know that people would go overboard either because their genetic makeup did not make them withstand it, and so fall victim of becoming addicts and needing support. What safeguards are there for that? You've passed a law saying, yes, recreation and all that.
So the law is actually explicit. Yeah. Explicitly forbids
industrial and
explicitly forbids the growing of cannabis for industrial purposes, but allows the licensing of the growing of cannabis for industrial purposes, specifically purposes of fiber, seed, and for medicinal use.
Yeah. Is it because you don't have alternatives? So that must be. It's not a force. It's not like that is the only option for fibers and other industrial products that such plants can give. If you had no alternative at all, then it makes a lot of sense. But if you have, perhaps you may want to think again to ask yourself, should we allow this to happen and you get a lot more becoming dependent, requiring support and rehabilitation? Would you be using what you are going to earn to rehabilitate them? Or they will just fall through the cracks as we are seeing it's taking place?
Stay with me. Let me bring in Sheikh. Sheikh, so this law has gone back to Parliament now. What do you expect now from Parliament? If you had a conversation with the parliamentarians and the Speaker, who obviously stated his position that he's for this and wants this passed as soon as possible, what do you tell him? Hello, Sheikh Arimeo.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Matters of drugs, generally, must be considered issue of worry because of the consequence and the effect it has on the users. And so such matter, for us to legalize it, requires that we actually deepen and broaden the consultations so that the communities that are going to be affected will be well informed about the choice, the policy choice that we are making now about the legalization of the cannabis. In my view, I don't think that that scope of consultation has been done to really assure the community about the harmlessness of the policy as it stands at the moment. So there's a certain kind of discomfort and trepidation about the free legalization of substance abuse. Secondly, it appears to me that we have not been given the assurance respect to how our fight against drugs generally has been successful. So now that we are now going to open the door for legalizing cannabis, having in mind that our youth have the strong propensity for taking the cannabis, we have no assurance that there's a certain enforcement regime that can guarantee the protection of our young people. So from the beginning, that is the initial worry or discomfort that I would want to express. And if I have my own way, say, knowing what drugs do to the human person, and cannabis is only one of the drugs that we are talking about here. Then we need to tread cautiously on that path.
Yeah, but Sheikh, considering that this is really not a new piece of legislation, in fact, it was considered approved, assented to by the president, became law, went to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court overturned it because of a procedural issue. I mean, aren't we past the stage of consultation? Because this really is just fixing a small, tiny section in a bigger law.
Well, I think if this is where we have gotten to, for me, the assurance as to how we can monitor, because we are talking about a THC that must be limited, come to 0.3% or below. Now, what is the monitoring mechanism that can guarantee us that we will not have the brand that comes with the THC that is more than 0.3%? Because we know that there are types that comes about, say, 0.775% of the THC. So what is the monitoring mechanism that will ensure or give us assurance that other brands that are not captured by this particular law will be taken care of? For me, if we don't get that one clearly, and also the issue of enforcement, what does the law say about an effective enforcement, that those who will even come in with a brand that the law does not allow, so that we save, the space of our young people who have the strong propensity to use this, and then already we have, serious problem on our hands, where drug abuse is on the ascendancy. Our young people are destroying themselves. We have not succeeded in dealing with it, and so on. And then we are now going to open up this new, door for, legalizing the drugs. So for me, as somebody coming from a religious community, whose community, I must underscore, is affected seriously. My community is affected by drug use. And so I'm very, very conscious of it and what effect it has on our community.
Okay.
So if the law can give us the assurance that our young people can well be protected from getting involved in the brand that we do not want, then probably for industrial and medicinal purposes, as has been indicated, we may soften our position on that.
Okay, interesting. Nana, so you at least identify and empathize and sympathize with the concerns that have been expressed both on this matter?
No, of course not.
Tell me why.
Of course not. You see, one of the greatest levels of ignorance is when people talk about something that they don't know anything about. And with all the greatest respect to Peter and Bismillah to Sheikh, they don't know what they're talking about. Because they're talking about drugs. But what is before Parliament has nothing to do with drugs at all. What we are talking about is industrial cannabis, not recreational cannabis. And even in your introduction, you spent a lengthy amount of time talking about the consumption of cannabis through smoke. That is not what is on the table in Parliament right now.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Well, the law is in two parts. The Section 43 is in two parts. The industrial use is one part. Yeah. The second part is the express forbidding of recreational use.
That's just one line.
Well, yeah, it's true.
It's just one line.
But the above line is also just one sentence. So you have to do both.
It's more than one sentence. It's more than one sentence.
Well, it's a couple of... It's one sentence. Both of them are the same.
Can I finish?
You have to do both.
You let me finish.
I'm just pointing out to you that that's not...
You let me finish. Yeah. We can have this thing long after. I'm very clear in what I'm saying. That what we're discussing right now, there's no need for this discussion at all. Because what is on the table in Parliament is not recreational cannabis. It's industrial cannabis. The issue of 0.3 or 0.77 is even neither here nor there. Because the people in our communities, in the Muslim communities who smoke weed, the weed that they smoke is not 0.77%. And if anybody smoked weed at 0.77%, nothing is going to take place at all. When you talk about recreational cannabis, you're talking about a THC content of 10, 15, 20, and 25%. That's what you're talking about.
How do you guarantee that what is produced is actually 0.3
you hold on.
THC? I think that's a fundamental question.
I'm coming. So I want to clear up this first, to let both your participants know that what they're talking about is not on the table. You cannot abuse industrial cannabis, but you can make hempcrete from it, you can make hemp wood from it, you can make charcoal from it, you can make cosmetics from it.
But I want to go to their main concern. The main concern is 0.3 THC.
But their main concern...
Just a second. 0.3 THC.
Yes.
How do you ensure that it's actually that potent? The 0.3 or less, which is what the
0.3.
How do you ensure that? How do you monitor?
Let me say this to you. When you use the word potent, don't use it in the same breath as 0.3, because that's a mismatch. 0.3 THC is like 0% THC.
Yeah, but that's not my question. Right? How do you ensure that it is that 0.3
I'm
or less?
I'm contextualizing. Yeah. You will test. You will carry out tests. The Narcotics Control Commission will be geared up to come to the farms to take samples and also to test on the spot what the THC levels are. And let me say this to you as well, because in your opening remarks, you talked about the floodgates and people now cultivating recreational cannabis
under the guise of...
It's not possible.
Medicinal.
It's not possible.
How? Why
because industrial cannabis will cause the THC cannabis, if you like, to cross-pollinate. The pollen from the industrial hemp, once it blows across and gets onto the normal cannabis, popularly known as weed, it will change it. It will no longer be potent at all. And the two plants are distinctively different. The industrial hemp grows to at least 16 feet tall, whereas the cannabis that you've all been talking about grows to about 6 feet, no more than 7 feet, but it's wide and it's bushy and it has its buds on there. And it's the buds that are dried and then smoked. And it's those buds that have the THC in it. We're not talking about the same thing here today. I've come to talk about industrial hemp, but you're all talking about the real deal cannabis, recreational cannabis.
Thankfully, the chairman of the committee that is looking into this has joined us. Ms. Ayin Midwechu, thanks for your time here on PM Express.
Good evening to your listeners.
Great to have you. If you can kindly update us on where we are tonight with the Narcotics Control Commission Act, which of course the Supreme Court struck it down, but then last week we saw the Interior Minister on the floor reintroducing that Section 43. Where are we in terms of the consideration of that particular section and the entire Act?
Okay, thank you very much. It was done. It was read in the House and referred to the committee. We considered it under a certificate of emergency, and will report to the House this week. What has happened? And I'm enjoying your debates that you are having with your hosts, and they've done the education, talking about industrial cannabis. That is our thinking in Parliament. And when it went to the Supreme Court argued that we did not discuss or debate that particular clause. And then the Supreme Court expounded it from the law. And that is exactly the same clause that the Minister of Interior introduces in Parliament. That is what we have to debate and submit. But I do not think the Supreme Court was right in saying that we did not debate it adequately. In Parliament, when we are making laws, if there is no controversy about the law, a particular bill or clause, we don't debate it. Most of the time, we don't say anything. We read the head note of the clause, and then if any person has anything to say, add or subtract from the proposal, the person says it, and then we could debate. It is not that every clause must be introduced for debate. But the Supreme Court said that when the matter, the issue was before us, it was not part of the memorandum that the Ministry of Interior submitted to Parliament. And it came up. Yes, it is not everything that is given to us in Parliament that must be part of the... If they are bringing it to Parliament, yes, obviously, the memorandum covering the bill must cover it. But if it is introduced when it comes to Parliament, the memorandum cannot cover it. Because the memorandum is a summary of what the sponsoring ministry or the sponsoring person is information that the person is giving us. But if it comes up and then we come out with any idea, we add to, we introduce anything, then obviously the memorandum cannot cover it. So I am sure this time we will debate it adequately, and not sure Supreme Court will say that we didn't debate it.
Just for clarity, so this will now be considered under the certificate of urgency?
Yes.
Okay, when do you plan to do this?
We stopped on it last Friday. It was referred to the Defense and Interior and the Leadership of Constitutional and the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs were added. So on Friday, the committee starts on it. Tomorrow, Tuesday, when we sit, if the report is ready, we will lay the report and then we'll do the debate.
So clearly this will be passed then. But the question is, where are the safety mechanisms in the Act to ensure that what you are going to now legalize in terms of the growing of industrial cannabis is actually industrial cannabis that will be grown by people who are licensed to grow it?
If the law says that you are to grow industrial cannabis and you choose to do anything else, there are ways that we can check it.
But I don't see that in the Act. That's what I'm asking. Where in the Act does it state how you first of all verify that it is industrial cannabis that is 0.3 THC and below?
No. I think you are asking the wrong question. The law has to be passed. If the law is passed, other things, the law says you have to, this is what is allowed. Anything else that is not allowed, you do it, you flout the law. So you don't have to say that every other thing must come in this very law. No, that's not how it works. We cannot bring every rule, everything under one umbrella. The law says these are the parameters within which Ghanaians are supposed to operate. And you want to choose to operate outside the parameters. Obviously, you face the law, and you have a branch of the law.
Yeah, but you say that. But to determine if somebody had actually broken the law, you must be monitoring. You must be enforcing. What is enforcement mechanism?
We have enforcement mechanisms that are supposed to do it. So you don't have to. We don't have to split heads over this.
No, but that is an important subject.
Even when somebody is arrested for cannabis, pleasure, cannabis, and whatnot, they don't just get up and then prosecute the person. They send it to the lab and test the kind of substance that is confiscated or taken from the person before the person is prosecuted. So if anybody would want to do anything contrary to what the law would permit, the person would not go scot-free.
Yes, but how? Because remember, this is not just something that you can look with your eye and say it meets a legal requirement. What is the enforcement mechanism?
I do not know. When you called me, you were speaking to somebody who was educating me. And I think he knows very much about this. I enjoyed his debate, his lecture. And I think even he was telling us, I do not know, but what he was saying, even the way it goes, there's a lot of difference. And I'm sure the narcotics unit would know more about it, and they can pounce on anybody that is doing the wrong thing.
No, but the act that we are talking about is the Narcotics Control Commission Act, and it's very, very broad. Right. You don't find it worrying that this whole act has this clause in it, but in that act you didn't find space for the enforcement mechanism and the safety nets to ensure that this is not abused?
No. Your fear, I see where you're coming from, but you don't have to fear, because we have a whole unit regulating this. We didn't want, yes, every Ghanaian wouldn't want people to be, and I'm told that the one that we legislated on the 0.3, the THC and whatnot, even if you smoke a barrel full, it won't do you anything. You will not be intoxicated. That's what we are allowing.
Please stay with me. Reassured, this is the chairman reassuring you that, are you reassured?
My honorable MP and Nana here are not giving us assurance. It's this. In the first place, what has informed the need to bring about the act? If you answer that question, you would see that you want to cure a certain mischief. And what we are worried or concerned about is that people are going to ride on this legislation and do the very things you are saying that it's not what the law is talking about.
It's not possible.
It's very possible.
No, it's not possible.
Because right now,
you're all paranoid. It's not possible.
There's no paranoia here.
I want to bring you in.
Right now, you have these drugs that Sheikh and I are talking about.
Which drugs?
Being consumed. You are talking about producing industrial products, isn't it?
Yes.
You want to produce industrial
products. He says the two are distinct. They are not the same plants. There's industrial cannabis and there's recreational cannabis.
You are putting this in place because
he says they are different.
What people are thinking about how recreational cannabis are being used.
No, that's not the reason why it's being put in place.
Yes.
No, that's not the reason why.
So
the reason why
you would have to be sure that you have enough safeguards to support people who, for whatever reason, use them and become dependent.
So the Act also says that the Commission is empowered to collaborate with the agencies to give them rehabilitation.
Look, we have all seen how the Commission works.
To give them rehabilitation.
We have all, whether it's a board, Narcotics Control Board or Commission, we have all seen how it has worked.
You're talking as if there's no law in the country. When someone is caught with in possession of weed, what happens? They go to court and they go to prison. We have thousands of people who are in prison now for possession of negligible amounts of cannabis. Negligible amounts. They're doing 10 years. Some are doing 15 years. Families totally destroyed because somebody has a spliff. That's a joke. But you are talking as if there's no law. There is a law here. And the law says that, and it will say that soon when the president assents to it, that the minister has the due authority to issue licenses for people who wish to cultivate industrial hemp with a THC level of 0.3. It can never...
It's in black and white. I think that's what the controversy.
No, but hold on. Let me finish.
Yes.
Let me finish. Because you're not asking the right questions, right? Let me tell you that. You're not. It's 0.3 THC. It can never, ever, ever in this world or the next be abused. Period. There will be no need for rehabilitation centers on 0.3.
Again, you say a second.
There'll be no need for rehabilitation
centers. That the wrong questions have been asked, but that's not the concern. I think you're addressing the wrong concern. The concern is...
The concern isn't a legitimate concern. I'm coming. The concern is not legitimate.
No, it is.
The concern is not valid.
It is valid.
And it's not valid or legitimate on the basis that what is before Parliament right now is not what they are concerned about.
No, but the issue that they have is that you have a law that specifies very clearly what is being licensed. But this is an issue of also enforcement, making sure that what the law has permitted is actually what is being
When you break the law, what happens?
Just a second, and I'm coming to the question. The question that they're asking is, where is the mechanism to ensure that what the law has licensed is actually what people are growing?
The police force, the Ghana police force.
The Ghana police are put to you, hasn't got the capacity to determine.
That is the mechanism.
The Ghana police force hasn't got the capacity to determine what is 0.3 THC and what is industrial cannabis.
But the Narcotics Control Commission does. And I've said to you that, look, let's get rational about the whole thing. People are going to apply. Let's say 10 people apply. Let's say 6 people get licenses. Now, those 6 farmers or those 6 farms will be monitored by the Narcotics Control Commission.
That's an assumption.
Hold on a moment.
It's not in the act.
Hold on a moment. It's there. You see?
I have read the act.
What you don't know.
The chairman of the committee.
Have you read the legislative instrument?
Well, I'm reading the act.
I'm asking you Parliament.
I'm telling you what I've read.
Have you read the legislative instrument?
Well, the chairman of the committee.
Oh, please.
I asked that question.
Evans.
And says they are relying on agency.
It's a yes or no.
You've talked about the police.
Wait, it's a yes or no. They're an agency. The police is an agency. Listen, if you read the legislative instrument, and unfortunately Peter and Sheikh don't know what that is either, you will see that within the legislative instrument, all the questions about safeguards are covered within that document. And that document is a document that operationalizes the law. You can't pass a law and not have an LI. Right? So there's an LI for this law, and within that LI, all the concerns, the unvalid concerns that are being raised here are covered within that document. If someone was to cultivate recreational cannabis after being given a license to cultivate industrial cannabis with a THC level of 0.3, and NARCOP comes there to see that that is what they have done, they have broken the law. NARCOP will tell them to destroy it, and also NARCOP will report them to the police, and also they will get their license revoked.
Well, this is a country where we know that the state agencies have a significant challenge enforcing the law, even if they have the will to do it, because of the nature of the beast we're dealing with here, subject to abuse everywhere in the world, and that is why if you watch the numbers, recreational cannabis brings in far more. That is a big deal. Let me bring you Sheikh. Sheikh, so you've heard the chairman of the committee, and it makes the point that be reassured. The safety mechanisms are there. You also the Najima say there is a legislative instrument on this matter. Does it address your concern that these two plans are distinct and you cannot confuse industrial cannabis with recreational cannabis?
No, it does not, because what I listen to him sounds more theoretical than practical. Absolutely. And the point that we are making here is that even in fighting other national vices, we have not been able to have an effective regime of enforcement. For example, I'm just using this as an example, even the fight against Galamsey, for example. I mean, the laws are there. How effective have they been? How successful have we been in fighting corruption with all the enforcement and the agencies that we have? How successful have we been? So that's why our concern here is that do we have an effective, strong, tried enforcement regime that will ensure that we do not open the floodgate for people to come in under the guise of cultivating industrial cannabis, and then they go in to cultivate the type that we do not want. And I think that is Nana got us wrong from the very beginning, and he indicated that we even didn't know what we're talking about. We know what we're talking about, but that we started with a generic description of the problem, and we are saying drugs, but cannabis is one of those. Yeah. And if you come to talk about the component of it, that gives the sensation, and it says that the cannabis we are going to talk about now should be limited to 0.3, and we are saying that what is our mechanism? What is our mechanism for ensuring that we are able to maintain this kind of level of the THC? Because we have a very weak enforcement regime in this country, we do not have that assurance. So we understand the problem. Nana's concern is more economic. is more economic and financial and material. We are talking more about the protection of the human person, because we have seen what drugs, generally speaking, including cannabis, are done to people. And that's why if there's any brand of the cannabis that is going to be introduced and be legalized, then we want to get the assurance that our enforcement regime will be able to really restrain the brands that we do not want to see from coming into the market. That's exactly.
Yeah, I want to quickly bring in.
But I do not get that assurance. If you look at the questions you are putting to Nana and the chairman, we are talking about how do we ensure that we don't open the gate for the recreational use, and we know the propensity among our youth is very, very high for taking that. What is the enforcement regime like, and what has it been in our country? And I've given you examples of some of the challenges that we have in this country, and our enforcement regimes have not been able to fight them.
Yeah,
even general drugs.
Yeah, and Sheikh, I'll quickly, I want to bring in the chairman again, just to wrap up with him. If you can clarify, when this law was passed and assented to by the president, was there a legislative instrument to go with it subsequent to its passage? Hello, Mr. Nyimedwechi.
No, yeah.
Yes, can you hear me, sir?
There was something that I needed to respond to. I think we are arguing, the whole argument here is legal and morality. People think that once we are talking about cannabis, there is a tendency that people would abuse it. About 2 weeks ago, a young man was buried in my hometown because he abused appetite. He drank appetite in larger quantities. He didn't eat, and in the morning, when they opened the door.
Mr. Nyimedwechi, if you don't mind speaking a bit into the microphone, I'm having a bit of an interference, but I can hear you, but it's faint.
Well, I'm saying that.
Great.
You can hear me now.
I can loud and clear, yes.
Yes, being cautious. I think we are arguing about morality and legality. Now, Parliament has found, and the ministry brought it to us, that there is a lot of advantages that we are going to get from this industrial cannabis. And with this, they use the word, the TH system. It should not be more than 0.3. And I'm told that even if you should use a bucket full, a barrel full, it's not going to destroy you like we think. That is why we are saying that we are not going there. Application that we use, alcohol, is when people abuse it, they die. But it was not allowed until we realized that we could use it for commercial purposes. So people must not say that we are immoral if we pass a law. And the advantage is that we are looking at industrial cannabis that we could use for other things in the country. And it can easily be checked by the agencies. It can easily be checked by the agencies, whether LI or no LI. Let us look at the law. And why the Supreme Court has found this law was, to me, the reason. That's why the ministry has brought it up. That we go through it again. That is also the big.
Yeah,
and that's what I say. That I think that was unfortunate. If they say that we didn't.
Yeah, and that point was made strongly by the speaker. Just on that point again, just for clarity, did we have at the time when it was first passed an ally to accompany it?
Well, I'm not answering that. You see, I didn't answer that because it's not about LI. Or the act itself. If it is law, it is law. But what I'm saying that the arguments that are going on, I hear one argument to say that, look, let us be moral. The other side saying that this is the legal thing. The legal thing we have said is that it is 0.3 cannabis, that is industrial cannabis. Whether there is a LI or it's an act, is the law. And we have to go by that. And we have realized that I was educated at the committee meeting that this would give us an advantage. It is not go beyond the moral aspect and see what benefits we could have as a country.
Okay.
If somebody can grow, export, and it can bring some income to the country, if it is not the cannabis for pleasure, if it is not the Indian hemp that we smoke to people get confused and get diseases and whatnot, then I think we are good to go. On that basis, we all understood it and passed the
law accordingly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And let me wrap up quickly. So that is it. Don't get worried. He says, obviously you disagree with that position there. He says you're making a moral argument. Do you accept that that's what it is? It's a moral
Not
argument?
at all. It's not moral. It's more health and rights. It's more health and rights. The other question could be, are we saying we've run out of all ideas of generating income?
Well, that's a fundamental argument.
And growing hemp.
Yes, we have
is
run
the
out.
aloe.
Yes, we have run out.
So hemp is the...
So we are desperate. It's a desperate measure.
It's a great,
because
it's a great goal.
what you are going to do, it's more of going to spend on your health of your population than you're going to rake in.
Honestly,
if you are not
so
careful.
you have no idea.
Finally,
I think you are more idealistic.
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
Peter, let me ask you. So he's confirmed now that this will be passed under a certificate of urgency.
Yes.
Very few things go through that. Which means that in
the cannabis for recreation would simply just ride on the back of industrial cannabis. To fester what we don't want to see. That's just all. And what we are saying is, nobody is against what would be economically beneficial to the state. What we are asking and claiming should happen is safeguards for those who fall through the cracks.
Nana,